the protocol established by the Director of Ceremony and the ED, let me at this point, on behalf of the Honorable General Matundu, Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, and all staff members of the ministry, to sincerely, Your Excellencies, welcome you today at this briefing for Diplomatic Corps, which is our normal annual family gathering. Unfortunately, we could not meet in person for the past 2 years due to COVID-19 pandemic. But the fact that we are able to meet in person today is indeed a welcome moment and hopefully a positive sign that the future is promising. Before I go further, I welcome all heads of diplomatic missions, both bilateral and multilateral, who have joined us since our last meeting. Welcome to Namibia. Make it the best home to remember. And on our part, as Namibians, we will do our best to give you a conducive diplomatic working environment for the benefit of your country, your organization, and of course, our Namibia, the land of the free. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are meeting at a time when the world is on its way of recovering from COVID-19 pandemic. You will agree with us that in the first 2.5 years, we have witnessed something that we have never been experiencing before. But what became obvious is that every global crisis impacts the international system, its structure, norms, and institutions in different ways. Evidently, the COVID-19 pandemic presented enormous challenge, which all of us have lived through and have lost loved ones, colleagues and friends, and of course, family members. The pandemic did not differentiate between rich and poor, north and south, no developed or developing economies. Therefore, the post-COVID-19 pandemic recovery must be based on true partnership of nations and reflect the reality so that all of us can recover at the same time and, if possible, at the same speed. Namibia received and is still receiving enormous material support from our bilateral and multilateral partners in order to combat the spread of COVID-19. We commend and thank all of you for having effectively mobilized such support from your respective countries and organizations which assisted us to manage the COVID-19 to the level where we find ourselves today. In the same vein, referring to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, this has presented an opportunity for the international community to adjust ways of interacting with one another when crisis starts in the best interests of all citizens of the world. For the African continent, among others, the pandemic reaffirmed the importance of a certain level of self-reliance, be it in the area of service, food, transportation, energy, manufacturing, and many others. Going through this pandemic, we learned that Africa must continue to work together and lessen our dependency on outside the world by focusing our efforts on intercontinental cooperation through trade and adding value to our primary commodities while creating value chain for economic growth, thus ensuring true partnership between Africa and the rest of the world. In this respect, the African Continental Free Trade Area provides us with an opportunity to maximize intra-Africa trade and boost economic recovery, thus realizing sustainable development through the creation of employment, thereby reducing poverty. This has become more relevant as we strive to revive our economies post-COVID-19. As such, for Namibia, economic diplomacy remains a crucial element on the charge sheet of MIRCO and our diplomatic missions. We continue identifying economic sectors where Namibia shall have competitive advantage as we focus on attracting investors to participate in our economic activities to make a positive impact on the lives of our people. One of our priorities is to ensure food security. Hence, agriculture will remain a focus on our economic recovery agenda, while we're food aware and pay attention to the main enablers of this sector, such as energy and water. We thank the World Food Programme and all of you who are joining us in driving our agricultural sector and its enablers. Namibia recognizes the importance of a just energy transition. We therefore wish to register our appreciation to all our bilateral and multilateral partners who have been working with us and assisting us in our desire to become a leader or leading green hydrogen hub in the continent. Your Excellencies, we have also noted the world is opening up, and as such, very important engagement, both in and outbound, has taken place. And Namibia has been part of this. For example, since the opening of the world in the first half of this year, Namibia has experienced trade missions which took place in countries such as Angola, Ghana, India, Nigeria, Qatar, Spain, Switzerland, United States of America, and the United Arab Emirates, just to mention. We look forward to continue working with you, Your Excellencies, on the trajectory of further strengthening economic ties between Namibia and your respective countries and organizations, and how we can link our private sector, who are our partners in the realization of the AU Agenda 2063 and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Accordingly, the Ministry continues to value all our bilateral partnerships, and since our last diplomatic briefing, we had several successful bilateral meetings with your respective countries. This include official visits to Angola, Botswana, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Qatar, Norway, Sweden, Iceland. Also joint and commission and intergovernmental commission and joint working group have taken place with the following countries: Angola, Botswana, Cuba, DRC, Ghana, Russia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And diplomatic consultation took place between Namibia and Angola, Finland, Spain, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. In the same vein, I must underscore that meetings between yourself, Your Excellencies, and different Namibian ministers, senior government officials, and of course myself, continue to take place. The aim is to strengthen our cordial relationship. The importance of regular dialogue with you on issues of common interest to Namibia and your respective countries and organizations must therefore remain a priority to the cause of our common assignments. Your Excellencies, all the above framework of cooperation are aimed at enhancing and promoting our economic diplomacy, thereby strengthening bilateral relations between our respective countries. It is this platform where we have been able to review progress, seek new opportunities with the bilateral partners, where we are able to compare notes on regional and multilateral issues of mutual interest and concern. Namibia also participated in the UN Ocean Conference, co-hosted by the governments of Kenya and Portugal, with a commitment to protect our ocean to save the future. Last week, Namibia joined the family of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting held in Kigali, Rwanda, where His Excellency President Hage Geingob engaged his counterparts on topical issues such as climate change, sustainable and inclusive development, with an emphasis on the role of the youth, women, and vulnerable groups. During the past year, Namibia has participated in several UN conferences, such as the Stockholm Plus 50 in June 22, where leaders made call for bold environmental action to accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda and Sustainable Development Goals. Your Excellencies, our commitment to sustainable development is driven from our Constitution through Article 95, which calls for, and I quote, the utilization of the living natural resources on sustainable basis for the benefit of all Namibians, both present and future. And that is where our emphasis on sustainable utilization of our national resources comes from. Last year, Namibia participated in the United Nations Climate Change Conference, well-known COP26 in Glasgow, Scotland, that encouraged more urgent greenhouse gas emission cuts and promised more climate finance for developing countries to adapt to climate impact. Namibia looks forward to take part in the 27th UN Climate Change Conference in November 2022, which this time around is taking place in our own continent, and we are happy that Egypt is hosting this on behalf of Africa. In all these meetings, Namibia's message remains the same. We need a collective response to address environmental concerns with the effect of climate change that now and then we faced a double crisis where we are to deal with drought followed by floods in some parts of the country. For Namibia, therefore, land degradation and desertification, which are further compounded by climate change, are critical areas of concern. We need to build resiliency to such extreme weather incidents. We must be proactive and not reactive to them, hence need for information sharing and real action. On the international peace and security, this remains one of the focus of our policy on international relations and cooperation. As such, we continue to advocate for the peaceful solving of conflict between nations through negotiations. We believe that conflict against each other will lead to the destruction of our planet. And this, based on our own constitution, explain the clear position our government has taken on the conflict now happening in Europe, which is concentrating on Russia and Ukraine. Again, in our call for peaceful solution of conflict internationally, Namibia continues to call for the immediate implementation of relevant UN resolutions on addressing the situation on Western Sahara and Palestine for self-determination to be achieved in those countries. And of course, we still believe that efforts should be made to stop the economic blockade of Cuba, as Cuba, as a member of the international community, deserve the best, like any other countries, for them to continue pursuing their developmental agenda. On regional development, Namibia will assume chair of the SADC organ on politics, defense and security cooperation at the August SADC summit that will be held in DRC. Cognizant of the security situation in our region, with particular reference to the security challenge we are facing in Cabo Delgado province of northern part of Mozambique and DRC, and some issues are raising in Eswatini and Lesotho, Namibia's intention is to steer the organ in the direction of strengthening the infrastructure for sustainable peace and development in our region. Similarly, April this year, Namibia began its 3-year term on the Peace and Security Council of the African Union and intends to play an important role in strengthening peace and security in Africa. As part of the AU Committee of C10, that is a committee on the reform of the UN Security Council, Namibia continues to promote the Common Africa position as articulated in a Zuluwini Consensus and the Serete Declaration. Reforming the UN Security Council must ensure equitable geographical representation and address the historical injustice done to the African continent. And if Africa remains outside the permanent membership of the UN, should it continue the legitimacy of its decision on issues concerning Africa will be questionable, and this should not be allowed. Your Excellencies, under the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, Namibia will continue to be an advocate of the Women, Peace and Security agenda. It was within this in mind that we decided to launch the International Women Peace Center in August 2020. The aim of the center is to strengthen regional and international innovation to advance the implementation of the Women Peace agenda. Since the center was launched, we have collaborated closely with the United Nations and some of your respective countries in building the strategies and concepts aimed for the development of the center. I therefore register our sincere appreciation for this support, and I have no doubt that we will continue to rely on your support in our joint efforts to advance the Women, Peace and Security agenda. Women should be full participants in ensuring international peace. Women should not be seen as victims, but women should be seen as equal role players in the maintenance of international peace. Your Excellencies, since our last diplomatic briefing 2 years ago, diplomacy as we know it has also changed. Heads of missions now present letters of credence virtually, and presentation of credentials ceremonies are not held as frequent as they used to be. In the case of Namibia, we look forward to having the presentation of credential ceremony on a quarterly basis, as we have decided, while we will ensure the observance of the established COVID-19 protocols. Public and digital diplomacy remain a core focus of the ministry, whereby we have successfully hosted 16 Theo Ben-Gurion lecture series with the aim of informing and engaging the Namibian public about the great work we have done to make the world a better place for all of us. I am sure that you have observed that we have added a virtual and hybrid component to the lecture series in order to encourage and engage a large audience participation that is to ensure the inclusiveness. I am also to thank some of you who have participated in this Dr. Theo Ben-Gurion lecture series. Your Excellencies, on the local front, you are all aware that this year is a very important year, particularly in the SWAPO party political calendar, which is the ruling party. That is the time when the ruling party will have its Congress. I'm mentioning this because those of you who have been in Namibia longer, you know that when the SWAPO party Congress is taking place, it's like a national event. The whole nation is focusing at the venue of that particular Congress. So I have to inform you that with the holding of the SWAPO Party Women Council Congress last February, the preparation of the party Congress has started. And as things stand now, all party machineries are in motion to prepare for this Congress. You might have also learned through the media that last weekend we had our policy conference, which is basically always done before the Congress to look into all policy documents and make recommendations that will be finally be adopted by the Congress. Therefore, if you see that sometimes you might not see ministers who might be involved understand the situation. Your Excellencies, it's prominent and important to reiterate and underline the significance of regular dialogue with you on issues of common interest to Namibia and to your respective countries and organizations. It is against this background that we must remain committed to the cause in order to ensure the realization of our common responsibility. Before I conclude, I wish to inform you that Namibia is a vast country. Windhoek is not Namibia, and this I'm directing to the new heads of missions and organizations. Every village, town, city, and region has its own beauty and uniqueness. I therefore implore you to become tourists so that by the time you come to pay me a farewell, courteous visit at the time, you'll be able to teach me something about the tourism potential of Namibia that you are going to sell back to your respective country when you go. I'm saying this because I want all of you, when you go back to your respective countries, to be Namibian ambassadors. And you cannot be a Namibian ambassador if you don't know the country. You will not be able to assist the key areas of our cooperation if you don't know the country. So please make an effort. I wish therefore to take this opportunity to once again thank all of you for the patience and continued cooperating with us in strengthening our cooperation. We have an assignment together and we have to perform that assignment. Thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward to a good discussion during the course of the day. Asante sana.